Happy September 6th. Today we're going to be talking about Deuteronomy 16, the three festivals that the people would be required to all travel to once they had settled the land, and then ending up with a little section on justice. So, Passover, the big one. It would take place during the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your God brought you out of the land of Egypt by night. And you shall offer Passover sacrifice to Yahweh your God from the flock or the herd. It didn't have to be a lamb. At the place that Yahweh will choose to make his name dwell there. So, this would be where the tabernacle would end up being. When they were in the desert, they all kind of marched around the tabernacle. Once they settled the land, God was going to pick a place. We now know it's Jerusalem, where they would all go and all sacrifice there. So, typically this was in the spring, March, April time frame, because that's when it was. So 7 days you would eat unleavened bread, the bread of affliction, for you came out of the land of Egypt in haste. And this was a way to remember. Kind of like the last few chapters. The farther away you get from being in a terrible situation that God wants to remind you of for the future, of how good things are going to be, the farther we get away from those, the less we remember them, the less they matter to us. So these festivals were a way to keep these things in the front of their mind, to keep God front and center in their lives. No leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the flesh that you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain all night till morning. So they'd have a sacrifice the first day, eat it, or before the sun came up, it would all be kind of burned on the fire completely. There was the tradition of women cleaning their houses of leaven to make sure that there was no leaven left in their houses. A lot of times in the Old Testament, in the Bible throughout, leaven was considered, kind of an allegory for sin sometimes. So you wanted to make sure that your houses were pure in that as well. So once you have sacrificed, eat it, make sure nothing remains until morning. You may not offer the Passover sacrifice within any of your towns, but at the place Yahweh will choose to make his name dwell in it, there you will offer the Passover sacrifice in the evening at sunset at the time you came out of Egypt. There's a lot of repetition in this. Cook it and eat it, and in the morning you'll turn and go to your tents. So, again, there's a lot of these people going to one central location, staying in tents because there's not enough housing around where the tabernacle is going to be, that is Jerusalem. For 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh there shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh your God. You shall do no work on it. After the Passover was the Feast of Weeks. So you shall count 7 weeks, begin to count 7 weeks from the time the sickle is first put to the standing grain. In Greek, this was called Pentecost. Kind of a big deal. A big name to remember from the New Testament especially. So, ideally, you'd get done from Passover, start harvesting your grain. 7 weeks, Pentecost. So, the next one is Thursday, May 21st, 2026 to Saturday, the 23rd of 2026. So, just kind of some GWIZ information. It was generally May, could be in June, but probably not. That's kind of the time of year that would take place. So, with the Feast of Weeks, 7 weeks after you started harvesting was the Feast of Weeks. You will keep the Feast of Weeks to Yahweh your God with the tribute of a freewill offering from your hand, which you shall give as Yahweh blesses you. So, not a tithe, it's more of an offering. God, you have blessed me this much, I'm going to give you this. Thank you. This is what I'm giving you as a free will offering. And you will rejoice before Yahweh your God, you and your son, your daughter, male servant, female servant, the Levite who is within your towns, the sojourner, the fatherless, the widow who are among you, at the place the Lord your God will choose to make his name dwell. Again, going from your hometowns to the central location. You shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and you shall be careful to observe these statutes. So, the third one is called the Feast of Booths. It's also sometimes called the, I don't think it's the Feast of Tabernacles. It's the Feast of Tents. I guess it was the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Ingathering, because it was going to be at the end of the harvest for your threshing floor and your winepress. Now, this would have been September, October. The next one is actually in about a month, October 6th to October 13th. That's going to be the next Feast of Booths. So, you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son, your daughter, male servant, female servant, Levite, sojourner, the fatherless, the widow. For 7 days you shall keep the feast to the Yahweh your God, to the place that Yahweh will choose, because Yahweh your God will bless you in all your produce and in all the work of your hands, so that you will be altogether joyful. So this was definitely a celebration. Oftentimes in the Feast of Booths, they would build temporary shelters to stay in, booths or tabernacles, after their exodus from Egypt. So that's kind of why it's called this. And then kind of to wrap these three up, it says, 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yahweh your God at the place that he will choose. The Feast of the Unleavened Bread, which leads up to Passover, the Feast of the Weeks, and the Feast of the Booths. They shall not appear before Yahweh empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh your God has given you. This doesn't mean that women were excluded. I think a lot of guys are like, yeah, if I'm going, my wife's coming too. And it says, you will celebrate with, you will rejoice with your son, daughter, male servant, female servant. But men, as head of their homes, this was when they were required to be there. So, then we move on to the section on justice. You will appoint judges and officers in all your towns that Yahweh your God is giving you. According to your tribes, they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. Do not pervert justice. Don't show impartiality, or don't show partiality. Be impartial. Someone has lots of money, you treat them the same as someone who has very little. You shall not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of the righteous. Justice, and only justice you shall follow, that you may live and inherit the land that Yahweh your God is giving you. Kind of a warning. Hey, if you guys aren't remembering where you came from with these festivals, if you guys aren't dealing fairly with people, and you're allowing people to be taken advantage of, that's going to create chaos. That's going to create sin. A lot of these things are about purity, about how we're supposed to live our lives in a way that honors God. Think of the last time you were really saved from something. And then just think, okay, how can I remember that in a way that honors God? Well, you could have a party every year. That's what these were. These were parties every year to remember what God had done for them. Maybe, and I don't know, this is all up to everybody who's watching this, you can have a party from the last time that God saved you from something big. Turn your morning into laughing and just rejoice and say, God, thank you for where I am today. We all, I think, want to live in a place where God is honored and celebrated and where people are treated fairly. I think we can see that this world is not our home because things are not like that. And if our goal as Christians is to reunite the way things are in heaven, which is how they're supposed to be on earth until sin entered, if our goal is to reunite things in heaven and things on earth, how we live matters. So today is, the Sabbath day. It's Saturday. Tomorrow is the Lord's Day, when we typically go to church here in America as Christians, when Jesus rose. Let's think about these things. Let's look at how we're living our lives. How can we be more joyful? How can we be more thankful and impact the people around us? Have a good day.